Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform here at YouTube. I've made a habit of doing special edition presentations, and today I'm honored to have with me one of the leaders in the world when it comes to your nutritional health and wellness, Dr. Peter Glidden. I've had Peter on our Operation Freedom radio show as a regular for over a year and a half, and Peter has brought such critical information to every one of our listeners. I thought it important that we do a special YouTube presentation. Actually, it's at the request of our listeners. Many of our listeners have contacted me over the last several months and said, listen, in addition to your Operation Freedom podcast from the radio show, we'd really like a video presentation that we could utilize to show our friends and families to help them with their nutritional health and wellness and pass on the great information that Dr. Glidden provides on a daily basis through the sources that we're going to talk about. In particular, he has 2 new books, which are fantastic, which are available on Amazon. Everybody is Sick, and I Know Why. And the second book, Attempt a Cure with Holistic Medicine. My work in medicine focused on orthopedic surgery, and my research focused on the prevention of injuries. But there's a big component of wellness that is missing, I found, in my medical school training throughout my career. And my daughter, who's also a physician, an allopathic physician, went through medical school 30 years after I did, she really got very little nutritional training as well. And this is where Dr. Glidden comes to the forefront. Little background on Peter. He graduated from the University of Massachusetts. He then obtained his doctoral degree in naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University in Seattle, Washington. He's a member of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, and he is currently in private practice of naturopathic medicine and has been licensed to practice naturopathic medicine since 1992. Peter, it's an honor to have you here at our platform at Operation Freedom. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here.
Dave, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Like my second cousin, 7 times removed, believe it or not, Benjamin Franklin said, we must hang together or most assuredly we will hang alone.
Well, and this, I really want to talk about that because all too often, Peter, there's this dichotomy in medicine where allopathic physicians, such as how I was trained, there's almost this, as opposed to symbiotic relation, hand in hand, let's focus on the patient, getting them better. There's almost this fist on fist approach, unfortunately, that is actually, I think, generated through my medical training, what I experienced and what I saw as my daughter went through her medical training. And I want to talk about the differences between allopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine, of which you're an expert.
Well, it's an interesting point to ponder, right? The doctoral degree granting programs, whether it's an MD or a PhD, right? Those were actually designed in pre-World War II Germany. And the intention of the educational process was not to broaden people's minds and have them open to the possibilities of, everything. It was to have them think inside of a particular box, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you become a PhD, you have to give your dissertation, and if your dissertation doesn't fit inside of the box of the board members that are listening to it, no matter how smart it is, no matter how erudite you are or how good your facts are, it's just simply not going to be accepted. And this is the problem, right? Because the education of a doctor, it's a meat grinder. Mm-hmm. And I've known, I did pre-med. I was with probably 100 other people who I really respected at the time. But I was the only one that went the alternative route. And seeing the kids that I was in school with who did the pre-med stuff years after they got their degree, I mean, it's lockstep, right? Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no consideration for anything outside of what people are trained in. And, I think that's just a function of the nature of the education, for better or for worse. In this case, I think it's for worse. And similar things exist in my profession. There's kind of a joke that goes around the naturopathic community. Well, how many naturopathic doctors does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, it only takes one, but every other naturopath in the room will tell you that there was a better and an easier way to do it, right?
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of kind of people feel kind of defensive and walled off inside of their own intellectual dogma. Or it's an interesting thing to talk about now. From a broader perspective, it's an important piece of perspective to understand that there's no such thing as medicine, right? Nobody practices medicine. Medicine is a big umbrella term under which hang many different disciplines. Medicine in this metaphor is like dogs. A lot of different types of dogs, and they're all good for different things, right? If you bring a Chihuahua duck hunting, well, wrong dog for the hunt. And guaranteed you're going to come home empty-handed. But the medical marketplace in the United States was monopolized in 1912 by the American Medical Association, and the AMA kicked everybody else off. The chiropractors got kicked off, the naturopaths, the herbalists, the homeopaths, everybody got kicked off the bus, right? So people in the 21st century have grown up not knowing anything or having any experience with the free medical market, right? So the only medicine that's practiced in our hospitals is MD-directed medicine. The only medicine insurance pays for, by and large, MD medicine. The only medicine that universities do research on, MD medicine, right? So people really we've been socialized to believe that the MDs, bless their hearts, are better at what they do than everybody else because they're in first place and they're everywhere all the time. And we completely overlook the historical fact that the only reason that happens is because, the MDs legislated themselves. They kicked everybody else off of the bus of medicine, and it's been that way for a long time. Now, look, thank God for trauma care. Thank God for surgery. Thank God for general anesthesia and the sterile technique and the mattress suture, right? Insulin and penicillin. There have been some really good things that allopathic medicine brings to the table, but because of the monopolization that's happened for longer than anybody can remember, there is a dearth of information and understanding about, dare I say it out loud, alternative forms of medicine, right? So I think the most important thing to understand in this regard is that you can distill the practice of medicine down in the 21st century into two distinct categories. The medical disciplines which practice reductionism and the medical disciplines which practice holism. And the medical professionals who practice reductionism are the MDs and the osteopaths. They are taught the reductionistic medicine, and reductionism is based on Newtonian physics, which argues if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. So, since nobody's ever dissected the soul or seen it with an MRI or a CT or an X-ray, it doesn't exist, right? So, allopathic medicine, based on reductionistic philosophy, argues that the body is a bag of biochemicals waiting to break. It doesn't really have a robust, healing system. The argument is if the body was really good at fixing itself, well, it never would have gotten sick in the first place. And all things metaphysical, like the spirit, the soul, even God or consciousness itself, are fictions, right? According to reductionism, consciousness is a function of biochemistry. And when you're dead, it's lights out, game over. There's no such thing as life after death. There's no relationship between the spirit and the body or whatever. And reductionism argues that medical treatments must be designed to orchestrate a hostile takeover of the human body and manage symptoms, right? That's how the drugs got their name: antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, antihistamines, etc. Now, interestingly enough, in this paradigm, the only therapeutics that actually heal anything or cure anything are trauma care and a handful of antibiotics for infectious disease. But, heartburn isn't cured, it's managed. Asthma isn't cured, it's managed, and so forth and so on. And this is what we've gotten used to. Now, on the other side of the spectrum is the holistic method, which every other medical professional in the world is trained in, right? The vast majority of people who practice medicine are holistically oriented. And holism argues that the human body is a complex system of interrelated parts, and that when you introduce a therapy for one part of the body, it's going to have ramifications in others. That there is a soul, there is a spirit. The body does, in fact, have an intelligent, indwelling spiritual force, which, quite frankly, is running the show. And the naturopathic, holistic therapeutics are intended we believe it's a sacred obligation of the holistic physician to develop and deliver therapeutics which support and promote the body's built-in God-given ability to fix itself. So our charter is to attempt to cure the illness. And how do we do that? By supporting and promoting the body's built-in God-given ability to do this. And these are the two most important distinctions. That holistic doctors believe in all things metaphysical, and the therapeutics are designed to help the body fix itself, which is in direct contradistinction to the pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. And again, thank God for Novocaine and thank God for insulin, right? The intention of which are simply to orchestrate a hostile takeover of the body and manage symptoms. Now, there's room in the world for both of these systems.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But as you indicated previously, we're far from having an honest, open conversation where everybody comes around the table and they share their expertise. And I honestly don't think that that's possible in our lifetimes.
Peter, when folks look at their nutritional needs, many people will say, well, I eat a, quote, healthy diet, and that's all I need to do to promote my nutritional health and wellness, and that will give my body enough fuel, enough ammunition to repair and heal itself from any process that might be an insult to my system.
Well, my rejoinder to that is, well, how's that working for you?
Right.
Right. I mean, and you're absolutely right. That is kind of a current medical myth that the human body can get everything it needs. All you have to do is eat from the five food groups every day and life is good. But, science doesn't really care what people think, right? Mm-hmm. Science doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. It's either a fact or it's a non-fact, and that's just kind of an old-fashioned, outdated non-fact. It is, and I'm choosing my words carefully, it is impossible. It's not just tricky or improbable or difficult. It's impossible to secure all of the raw materials that the body needs to keep itself healthy just from eating food. You could own, 100 acres of the most organic farmland on planet Earth and only eat the stuff that you grew, and you would still be nutritionally deficient. Mm-hmm. Because this stuff just isn't in the food the way that it used to be. And quite frankly, it never was all in the food anyway. Since recorded history in the last 2,000 years, there's no food grown anywhere on planet Earth that has had all of the nutritional components that the human body needs. And as you know, Monsanto gets bigger, and agricultural methods lean more and more on genetically modified organisms and Roundup and pesticides. The food that we're eating actually has less and less and less nutrients in it. And this is one of the drivers, the unseen drivers in the escalation of chronic disease. It's not genetics. It's not chemtrails, although chemtrails are real and they do have a negative effect on the human body. But ounce for ounce, the biggest driver of ill health are nutrient deficiencies across the board that are, quite frankly, unrecognized.
So what do you recommend, Peter, that people do? Obviously, I mentioned in your introduction, you have 2 books out, new, on Amazon. One of the big issues many people say to me is, I really want to get more information, and I want to be able to look at potential options that I could take to help me. So let's first look at the information source. 2 new books, Everybody is Sick, and I Know Why, and Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine. Educate our listeners and our viewers on these 2 books as resources for them to enhance their nutritional well-being.
Well, the first book, Everybody is Sick and I Know Why, is kind of a historical overview of the evolution of medicine, and it talks about the difference in philosophy between the allopathic way and the naturopathic way, the holistic way, and it's just kind of like a primer on medicine. And it's, quite frankly, it's information that everybody should be taught in grade school, but we're not taught. And I also give some anecdotal experience of things that experiences that I've seen with patients. And it's kind of a really good overview of how medicine got to where it is today. And the second book, Attempt to Cure, continues that thought, a little more in depth, but more specifically, in Attempt to Cure, I outline 89 illnesses, I believe, and specifically, and I tell people how conventional medical doctors, when the reductionistic method, think about it and what they're trained to do for it, and what holistic doctors think about it and are trained for, and more importantly, what to do for it. And one of life's greatest ironies, I've been around the block, man, just like you. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? And these are our strengths because we speak from experience, not from theoretical speculation, right? And what my experience is that for most of the conditions that most people seek medical help for most of the time, they first, before they seek medical help, everybody should have a proper diagnosis, right? That's important. But once you know what the diagnosis is, there are a lot of things that you can do on your own in the realm of self-help health recovery to support and promote your body's ability to get on the other side of this. And, that's really what I outline in Attempt to Cure. It's kind of like a self-help health recovery manual. It covers 89 different illnesses. I'm very proud of it. Both of these books are kind of the culmination of, 3 decades of my work. I'm not the best author in the world, but my strength is I'm able to take seemingly complicated, medical subjects and make them relatively easy to understand. And it's just like back in the day when scurvy was a thing, debilitating disease, scurvy. Your bones rot, your teeth fall out, you get open sores all over your body. It's a horrible, slow, painful death. And it's a vitamin C deficiency disease. And if you didn't know it was a vitamin C deficiency disease, you'd bandage it and antibiotics and anti-inflammatories and all this, and it wouldn't work. And it would help a little bit mitigate things, but then you die from scurvy, and all you needed to do was take vitamin C. So this is really, I think, important by way of educating people, about, quite frankly, medical concepts and therapeutics that are just outside of their realm of knowledge. And because we haven't had a free medical market for over 100 years now, the stuff that my colleagues and I, and now you, are seeing, we're like the outliers, and nobody knows what we know, and everybody needs to know what we know. And so this is my attempt to chip away at that rock of human suffering.
Well, it's an absolute critical component of folks' nutritional health and wellness and overall health and wellness to have a resource base that they can go to. Obviously, these 2 books should be a foundation of anyone's basic health and their basic wellness. So then the next question that comes up, Peter, you being a world expert on this, you have at your hands disposal to nutritional support programs, products that are only available to someone who has a licensed degree as yourself. For folks' nutrition and wellness and support, do they need to see a naturopathic physician and have prescriptions for certain products that cannot be obtained, if you will, over the counter to help with their foundational nutritional health and wellness?
Well, that's what every naturopathic doctor is taught, right? And for 25 years, I think, maybe 24 years, I had a brick and mortar practice like everybody else. I had an office and staff, and we'd see patients and bill insurance and the whole thing. And yes, in that context, I did specifically, everybody got their own program, right? And I was allowed by my license in that state to sell nutritional supplements, botanical medicines to my patients, right? But about 10 years ago, I met Dr. Wallach, and I started mentoring with Dr. Wallach. And Dr. Wallach, by the way, has forgotten more about medical nutrition than most doctors are trained in. He was in charge of $25 million of research from the late 70s to the mid 80s. He did thousands of autopsies, millions of blood chemistries and histopathologies. The final resulting research book that was the result of all of that work is in the Smithsonian Institution now, and it completely altered the scientific understanding of the relationship between nutrition and the health of animals and the health of human beings. So I mentored with Dr. Wallach. I've been mentoring with Dr. Wallach for the better part of 10 years now. And, if I seem tall to you, Dave, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And before I met with Dr. Wallach, I got pretty good results as a naturopathic doctor. Mm-hmm. But since I've been following Dr. Wallach's methods, leaning on his research and his understanding of pathophysiology, the things I've seen people recover from, man, I just didn't think that was possible. So, it's kind of like in this arena, it's really, no different. I mean, when you were going through medical school, you were probably taught surgical techniques that morphed and changed over time. And as time went by, you did things that were better and more effective, right? Because
sure.
That's the nature of science, right? We learn and we adapt and we change and we get better. And well, that's what happened to me when I started leaning on Dr. Wallach's understanding. And so that shifted my entire focus, because what I understood, and this was a revelation to me since I started working with Doc, was that the ability of the human body to fix itself mm-hmm. is greater than anybody has been led to believe. And most people who are suffering with some type of a health complaint, initially, first, second, and third, they should alter what they eat. There are 12 foods that nobody should eat. And then they should attempt to stimulate their body's ability to fix the problem by taking the appropriate nutrition. And it's not that difficult to do. Mm-hmm. So, we generated this whole program with, self-help, health recovery, and, do this and do that and do the other thing. And it's been the most effective, most rewarding thing I've done in my medical career so far. And honestly, I owe it all to Dr. Wallach.
Peter, I started my radio show over 8 years ago. And within a couple years of me going on air with Operation Freedom, and me speaking about healthcare policy, and me speaking about my work in prevention and the like, and trying to get folks to discuss and focus on preventing healthcare need, if you will, rather than waiting for a disease or an injury to occur and then, well, let's get it treated. I started to look at the alternative means to try to bring to my listeners. And that was because I felt it would be an important concept, but also because my listeners asked me to start to look at options. And I started to look at various types of nutritional support programs. Now, a couple of things I found. I essentially became a human guinea pig for many products. And frankly, when I first started doing research, there wasn't a lot of information on many of these products. Right. And I'd push these folks that were saying, oh, this product can do this and that. And I wasn't getting anything pushed my way as far as the research. Right. Some actually did have a little bit of research. And as I went through that research, okay, this looks promising. Then I'd start to take that product, and I didn't notice any kind of change in right. my overall well-being. Then I came across Dr. Wallach. I came across his research that he had done for decades. You mentioned that textbook he wrote that's in the Smithsonian Institute. Yeah. The question I have, Peter, is if we went to every medical school, allopathic medical school in the country, do you think that book is in any of their libraries?
No, I know for a fact that it's not. And that, again, is a reflection of the thinking that is, a function of the doctoral degree. You wouldn't expect to learn anything about Buddhism from a Catholic priest, right?
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. And it's a sad state of affairs, because people are of the belief that scientists and people who have doctoral degrees, they worship at the altar of science. And it's, if it's proven and if it's researched and if it has clinical traction, then that's the way that it is. But that's not how it is in real life. Max Planck, right? The discoverer of quantum theory, said that science progresses one funeral at a time. And right. Which means that doctors especially, regardless of the discipline, are so wedded to the things that they were taught that even when true new ideas come into their sphere of reference, that's difficult for them to accept it just because it is. And that's why you're not going to find anything regarding medical nutrition in contemporary medical school, but it gets worse, Dave. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened. Well, I'll give you a quick little story. Years ago, I think I was 2 years out of medical school. I was practicing in Massachusetts. I saw a little girl. She was 9 years old. She came to my office. She'd been suffered with reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and which means that if you touched her below the waist with a feather, it felt to her like you just hit her with a hammer, and it was really, really bad. She'd been treated at Children's Hospital in Boston for 3 years. Every couple of months, she'd go to Children's Hospital, seen by a team of experts. They did everything they could, and she wasn't getting any better. In desperation, her parents brought her to me. I saw her on a Friday. I'll never forget this. She was the last patient. It had been a long day, a long week. Her parents brought her to see me. I said, look, this is a complicated case. I want you to come back on Monday when I have more time, because I don't have any time right now. They said, look, she's in a massive amount of pain. Is there anything that you can give us over the weekend? I said, all right. So I did a short little analysis, and I gave her a homeopathic medicine, right? 3 doses of a homeopathic medicine. I think the total cost to her was $15 for the medicine, right? On Monday, her parents bring her back, and they're in tears in my waiting room. And I think, oh my God, the kid died, right? After, I think, the second dose of the medicine, there was 100% remission of all of her symptoms. And I'm thinking to myself, placebo response, placebo response, placebo response. But it wasn't a placebo response because the cure held. It held for a week, it held for a month, it held for 3 months, it held for years. And it was a remarkable, overnight, instantaneous, miraculous cure. A month later, after this miraculous cure, she goes back to Children's Hospital because, that's what she's been doing for 3 years. And she sees the same team of doctors that she's been seeing forever. They do a physical exam. They can't believe it. She's cured. They've never seen anything like it. They said, oh my God, to her parents, oh my God, what did you do? The mother said, well, I took her to a naturopathic doctor, and he gave her a homeopathic medicine. And 11 of the 12 doctors got up and left the room. There was only one that wanted to know what treatment I used.
Right.
But not even he called me. He just asked the parents. And, this is a reflection of the kind of cognitive dissonance that's built into the education of medical professionals. And it's really a shame. Some of the most closed-minded people in the world are scientists, and you would think it would be just the opposite.
And that's actually what's so frustrating. When I was looking and doing research on nutritional support programs that could help people, is that Dr. Wallach has all these decades of experience, decades of research. I mean, he's even actually, tell me if I'm wrong, but he even actually took on the FDA.
Yeah, he was responsible for, not solely responsible, but involved with securing a couple of qualified health claims from the Food and Drug Administration. Yeah, so, and even then, people are loath to believe it just because, and, I don't think, maybe it's human nature, because if the story's true, right, not everybody got on Noah's Ark, right?
Well,
and I think that's just human nature. So we exist, you and I and our contemporaries, our colleagues, we're swimming upstream here. And as far as I'm concerned, I've kind of given up the hope that everything that I do is, going to be mainstream and it's going to be everywhere all the time.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. So right now, my position is, I'll talk to 1,000 people. And if I can help one of them, then it was worthwhile. Right.
So let's help every one of our listeners that are willing to listen.
Yeah, good.
1, foundational information, your 2 books. Everybody is sick, and I Know Why, and Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine. Two, we developed this website, Operation Freedom Health. It's a sister site to DaveJanda.com. And
It's
we
great.
have the interviews that you have been so generous in giving our audience on Operation Freedom, the radio show. We have those interviews there. And we actually utilize Dr. Wallach's research and the products that Dr. Wallach developed. Now, full disclosure, folks need to realize that the products are on Operation Freedom Health. They can get them other places, but they're on Operation Freedom Health, and the purchase of those products goes to support our platform, Operation Freedom. But the reason they're there, because there could be, I've been approached by a number of different companies, and
Right.
and Dr. Wallach and his company never approached me.
Right.
But these other companies approached me, and those products aren't there because they didn't have research behind them, and they didn't have the results behind them. With these products, and you're the nutritional expert, I can give my testimony as far as how it's helped my condition that I have, but educate our listeners on why the products that from Longevity and from Dr. Wallach are so important and what they can do to help our listeners' nutritional wellness and health.
Well, it's a good question, and let me just say that regardless of, I can talk a blue streak about this, right? Because I could talk about this stuff in my sleep, and I'm very convincing when I speak because I speak the truth, right? Mm-hmm. And still, we're in the business of sales, right? And so even if you are speaking the truth, it seems a little salesy from time to time, and you just can't get away from that. But the simple fact of the matter is that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Mm-hmm. Like your experience, no matter how much something is researched and no matter how much it's touted or lauded or how good the marketing campaign is behind it, it either produces results or it does not produce results. And that's really where the rubber hits the road. And that's why I'm such a cheerleader for longevity, because I've seen more remarkable results with these products than with any other nutritional supplement that I've ever used. And as a naturopathic doctor, as a licensed naturopathic doctor, I have access to nutritional supplements that you can't get over the counter.
Right.
You can only get as a licensed healthcare practitioner, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like wine. All wine comes from grapes, but there's a great deal of difference from bottle to bottle based on all of these variables. It's the same with nutritional supplements. I think the magic to longevity's nutritional supplements is twofold. Number one, it's patently holistic, right? And, if you take your car in to get tuned up and all they do is put air in the tires, well, you need air in the tires, but you also need a lot of other things done as well. So the trend here in the medical nutrition community has been towards this idea of fractionated nutrition, where you take a lot of vitamin D, you take a lot of vitamin C, you take a lot of whatever it is that you're going to take a lot of. And that's really not the best way to do it, because what Dr. Wallach's research showed is that there are 90, there might be more, but as far as we know now, there are 90 nutrients which are essential to human health, which means that the human body needs them, but it can't make them. Mm-hmm. There's 90. And those things have to go down the hatch on a regular basis. The problem is that those 90 are not all present in the food.
Right.
And less over time. So from our point of view, everybody is nutritionally deficient. So you can take vitamin C or vitamin D or some B complex or some ashwagandha or whatever, and you're going to get limited results. But when you give for the first time in your life, when your body is replete with everything that it needs, in formulas, by the way, which are pretty easy for the body to absorb, then that's a game changer. And that's the fundamental reason why this stuff is so effective, is because it's more holistic than any other nutritional supplement I'm aware of, number one. And number two, the recipes of the products are based on Wallach's research. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Wallach a couple of months ago, and he said he was approached by research, I think it might even have been people at the United Nations. And they said, we're thinking about redoing the research that you did, but we figured it all out, and it would cost over $1 billion now, right? So the research is a really big deal, and the way that the products are formulated is a really big deal. But the bigger deal is that they're provided in a patently holistic manner, which is a big, big, big game changer.
What's the best nutritional support from a foundation standpoint you think folks should utilize?
Well, it's the Healthy Body Start Pack. The reason that it's called the Healthy Body Start Pack, and the reason that it was these particular product, it's a combination of 3 products, right? The reason that these 3 things were put together is because when you take these 3 products in concert, you're getting all of the essential nutrients that your body needs. So that's where we start. Everybody should start with the Healthy Body Start Pack. Now, another thing we need to talk about is the dosage, and this is an open debate. There's something called the Arndt-Schultz law in medicine, which is the Goldilocks zone of the delivery of the substance, right? So if you don't give enough of the drug, it doesn't work. If you give too much of the drug, it's a problem. You got to hit the sweet spot. Talk to any anesthesiologist, right? They'll tell you that. It's the same with nutraceuticals and vitamins and minerals. There's a sweet spot. But because my profession does not have the financial wherewithal that the pharmaceutical industry does, and because conventional medicine doesn't lean this way, and research institutions don't lean this way, we can only speculate or theorize as to the Goldilocks dose, right?
Right.
Ultimately, what people have to do is experiment themselves. So, having said that, our kind of generalized recommendation is 1 Healthy Body Start Pack 2.0 per 100 pounds of body weight per month. Now, if you're 200 pounds, you can only afford the 100-pound dose, get the 100-pound dose, right? Everybody needs at least 1 Healthy Body Start Pack 2.0 to start with, and that's really a fantastic foundation for, moving forward with your health.
When I did the research, I came across with Dr. Wallach, and I thought, well, I'm gonna start on this. I was the human guinea pig for my audience. I was trying various things. And I started on that Healthy Body Start Pack. Now, as you know, Peter, I have significant arthritis and have had for years, in particular of my neck and spine, to the point where it was becoming debilitating. And I had been on very high doses of pharmaceutical grade, prescription grade anti-inflammatories. And I still had difficulties with my arthritis, symptomatically. After starting that Healthy Body Start Pack, I started to notice that symptomatically I was not having not only the severity but the frequency of my symptoms, and I was actually doing a lot more. So what I started to do is I started to wean down my pharmaceutical grade anti-inflammatories to the point where within a month of me starting the Healthy Body Start Pack, I was completely off of pharmaceutical grade anti-inflammatories and have not taken a pharmaceutical grade anti-inflammatory in 2 years.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, this is what we're talking about. And this goes back to that scurvy thing I was alluding to before. I mean, if you didn't know that scurvy was a vitamin C deficiency, you could do as much as you wanted with everything else and you'd get limited results. And holy smokes, you take vitamin C and in a couple of weeks it's gone.
So Peter, some of my buddies that are physicians said, "Hey, Dave, you're like doing stuff. I mean, like many years ago. What's going on here?" And I go, let me tell you. And Peter, they looked at me and they were like, "Seriously, but what else did you do? Right? I go, no, this is what I did. Right. So the blinders, right? But it was very interesting. So then the question is, for our listeners, how did that Healthy Body Start Pack help Dave Janda?
Well, because, right? So, your bones, for instance, let's talk about the bones, right? Your bones are turning themselves over all the time. There's two types of cells in the body that do that: osteoclasts, which dissolve bone, and osteoblasts, which lay down bone. Mm-hmm. And these processes are happening all of the time. The body's chewing up old bone and laying down new bone, but the body needs raw materials to do that. Mm-hmm. It needs minerals specifically for bones. Bones, it's all minerals, right? You need calcium and phosphorus and magnesium and zinc and all this other stuff. And your body either has these mineral resources, raw materials, or it does not. And I'm telling you, it does not, because the food that we're eating does not have the stuff in it. And so as time goes by, the body becomes less and less and less and less and less and less, in this case, mineralized. So your body is still able to chew up old bone, but it can't lay down new bone because it doesn't have the bricks to do it. You don't have a bad gene. It's not because you're getting older. You don't have a voodoo curse. It's not because of, you're just out of gas. Your body's out of raw materials. Now, there is an interesting point to ponder here, right? If this process continues for long enough, there is a point of no return. Beyond which the bite's too far gone. You're going to need the hip replacement, whatever, because you've waited too long to fix the problem. Now, before I started working with Dr. Wallach, I thought in my hubris that I knew where the point of no return was. But I don't anymore. Because the things I've seen people recover from, it's like, holy smokes, man, I didn't think that was possible. So our basic recommendation here is you don't know how much your body can fix itself. You don't know how much damage has been already done. You must intervene because you don't really have anything to lose. Your body needs these materials anyway. So you're either going to be able to get there in time and bounce back, or, maybe stem the tide or stop the bleed or whatever. But the reason that you were able to recover is because your body was trying to fix your joints, but it didn't have the raw materials that it needed to do that. You took the supplements, your body had the raw materials, it got the job done, and you were lucky that you intervened in time.
Now, Peter, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but what Dr. Wallach has shown is it's not just these 90 nutritional elements that you have to provide to the body, but also how they interact with each other, the concentrations, correct,
yes,
of each. That's kind of the magic in his soup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the percentages. Right. Of the different supplements, right? How much calcium is in there? What form is it?
Right.
How absorbable is it? How much magnesium is there? What form is it? How absorbable is it? And so forth and so on for 90 nutrients, right? We're talking 90 nutrients here, and it's like an orchestra. There's this interplay amongst all of the pieces, and you got to have the right combo, or you're going to get less than perfect results, and the ability to get to that combo is a function of Wallach's research and clinical experience.
Now, Peter, many people that are listening to this take nutritional supplements, and they say, "Hey, I'm taking nutritional supplements, and you know what? I don't need to. They're all the same. That I don't need to take something different. I don't need to go to look at this Healthy Body Start Pack because, I'm already taking multivitamins, and all my friends tell me that, I'm nuts even taking multivitamins because I'm just going to urinate them out."
Yeah. Well, that's like saying, that's like thinking, well, I'm nuts for drinking beer because I just pee it out. It doesn't really have any effect on me whatsoever on the way through, right? That's just a ridiculously juvenile statement for anybody to make, but a lot of people do make it. The simple fact of the matter is that if you go to PubMed, which is, the It's a governmental, it's kind of the research center for the National Institutes for Health. And, just type in vitamin C. You'll get like 10,000 hits that come back on published research on vitamin C, right? So the notion that vitamin therapy is unscientific is a lie. It's, people who say that are quite frankly just misinformed. But the better question is, listen, not all chicken soup is the same. Not all wine is the same. They're all made from grapes. There is a giant difference from bottle to bottle, from bowl to bowl, and it's the same with nutritional supplements. So I'm telling you, based on 30 years of clinical experience as a licensed naturopathic doctor, that if you want to spend out-of-the-pocket money on nutritional supplements, then you're an idiot if you don't try Youngevities, because Youngevities is researched, formulated better than any nutritional supplement that I've seen, and I've seen just about all of them. And it doesn't matter what I say. The only thing that matters is how you feel. And I mean, honestly, Dave, the only reason that the naturopathic profession exists in this hostile political climate, we know the big pharma does not like us.
No.
The only reason that we exist is because we get results.
Right.
So, I would say, listen to Dr. Glidden. I'm telling you the truth. Listen to Dr. Janda. His experience is a true experience. It's a true testimony. Give the stuff a try, for goodness sakes. You have no idea what you're missing, number one. And number two, once it works and you do experience a positive change, you're going to continue to refresh your supplements. And in so doing, you're going to support Operation Freedom Health. And everybody wins. So,
Peter, a number of our listeners have various medical conditions, and they're saying, "Oh, I hope they talk about my medical condition." Well, and we need to talk about this. There are rules and regulations, correct, about what can be said, and educate our listeners about that, because most folks are unaware of some of those handcuffs.
Well, all right. So your listeners would probably want to sit down and put something heavy on their heads, because their heads are about to explode with what I tell them. Okay. So three things happened in 1912 in this country. Number one, Congress granted the American Medical Association exclusive control over who could and who couldn't call himself a doctor. Then they instituted an education monopoly where they brought Latin into medical education. The intention there, the idea there, was to take easy to understand medical concepts out of the grasp of the lay people who weren't educated in Latin, right? The third thing that they did was allow the pharmaceutical industry to have free political play. So what has happened is that because of pharmaceutical industry political influence, and again, remember, it's not the drug, it's how it's used. It's not the gun, it's how it's used, right? Thank God for Novocaine, thank God for insulin, but the pharmaceutical industry convinced the Food and Drug Administration and the Federal Trade Commission it is illegal for anything in the United States to treat a disease if it's not a drug. It is illegal for anything to treat a disease if it is not a drug. So, if I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor practicing medicine in a state that licenses and regulates me, my state law allows me as a naturopathic doctor to prescribe nutritional supplements and botanical medicines and to tell my patients that they have a direct impact on their disease state. And I can charge money for the nutritional supplements because that's allowed by law. However, if I'm not doing that, if I have a vitamin company and I put on my label arthritis RX, that's against the law because I'm relating the sale of a nutritional supplement to the treatment of a disease, and you can't do that. It's against the law, even if it works, even if it's true, even if I have, research to back it up and clinical experience to prove it, I cannot say it. And that is one of the major ways that the pharmaceutical industry maintains its leverage at the top. Because, and this is why if you go to a health food store, you're not going to see arthritis RX or diabetes fix. You're going to see blood sugar support. You're going to see bone and joint support and so forth and so on. The nutritional supplement industry must couch its terminology. Otherwise, they're going to get fined and they're going to get shut down. And another thing that they did was they raised the bar so high for the determination of a pharmaceutical agent that can actually treat a disease, right? I think the minimum amount now necessary to conduct all that research and to get a product approved is $60 million. So they have effectively forced everybody else out of the game. Right. So we are at odds here with, and I thought maybe, I had a fantasy that President Trump would perhaps do something about this. You know what we need? We need a federal department of holistic medicine. We need to take the control of vitamins and nutritional supplements out of the hands of the FDA and the FTC, and we need to give it to a body of medical professionals that actually have experience with it. That's what's necessary. I don't know if that's ever going to change, but we're handcuffed in selling nutritional supplements to the general public because we can't tell the truth. So
you can't tell the whole story.
We can't tell the whole story, and we're handcuffed. And I think it would be a very interesting interview because I've heard little snippets about what the pharmaceutical industry did to you and how you had to, handle their, what they did to you on a professional and a personal life. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a very interesting story to talk about. But nonetheless, it's a simple fact of the matter that the law is what the law is. And so this is why Dr. Wallach, in his wisdom, he developed these products for sale at Longevity. So we have the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. Yeah, guess what we use that for? We have the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack. Well, guess what we have to use that for? We have the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and Healthy Weight Loss Pack and so forth and so on. So in order to to have a little workaround here, these ridiculous and onerous regulations, we do the best that we can, and that's why the products have the names that they have.
Peter, you've been very generous with your time. You've been very, very, very generous with your knowledge base. Again, educate our listeners on the books for their informational foundation, for their foundation of their informational, nutritional value, for their wellness and health.
Okay, so Amazon.com. I appreciate the platform, Dr. Janda, very, very much. So Amazon.com, Attempt a Cure with Holistic Medicine, and Everybody is Sick, and I know why. And they're both available either as an ebook or in paperback form.
Now, Peter, you have a website, correct?
Yes, but because of your platform and because of what you're doing, to help the cause here, my recommendation is that people should, become directed to my stuff through your website, which is Operation Freedom Health. So that's where I encourage people to go. OperationFreedomHealth.com for all of your nutrient needs and information.
Peter, I'd like to thank you for everything that you have done, everything you are doing, and everything that you will do. You are an incredible health freedom fighter on the front line and have been for decades. And you
back at you, Dave.
Well, no, you take on the syndicate like no other. You are truly in the corner of every potential patient and every person willing to listen to enhance their nutritional well-being, their nutritional health, and their wellness. And I know you get a lot of grief for doing that. And I thank you for having the courage and the perseverance to do that 24/7 and for many decades to come.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. That means a lot to me.
Well, and I thank you. And I thank you for your friendship, Peter. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for the very valuable information that you have provided my listening audience on my radio show, Operation Freedom, and our audience today on Operation Freedom, our YouTube channel. Folks, this is Dave Janda signing off as we sign off every broadcast. Thank you for your time. Dream big and dare to fail. Dave Janda signing off. Thank you.